We begin today the Gemara on Daf Ayin Hey Amud Aleph, the second line from the top. So the Gemara before discussed the halacha regarding the three Averis that are Yeharig Val Yaver, Avedizarek, Gili Arayis, and Shvichas Damim. One of them being Gili Arayis, one shouldn't have forbidden relationships in a case where it's a Chi of Kares or a Einish of Mises Bezdin. So here the Gemara continues and brings a story in connection to Gili Arayis. Amarav Yudam Amarav. Maise ba'adam echad, there was an incident with a person. Shanasan einav bi'isha. He placed his eyes on a woman. Isha achas, one woman. And vehela libaitina. And he took it to heart to the point that he got ill. He wanted to have a physical relation with her. And his life was in danger. So they came and asked doctors, what should they do about this? Va'amru, and the doctor said, Ein loi takane achiti ba'aloi. There's no way to heal him unless they allow him to have a relation with her. Amru Chachamim, so the Chachamim said in that case, Yamus, he should die, va'alti ba'aloi, and she should not have any relation with him. So the reason is because since his healing is by being over on this Avera of Gili Arayis, which is one of the three Averas that a person has to die and not be over. So therefore, in a case where he wants to be over on Avera to heal himself, it's the same like a case where a person is being threatened that if he doesn't do the Aveda, he'll be killed. Here as well, he can't heal himself by being over this Aveda of Gili Arayis. Now, furthermore, the Chachamim said, Tamid Lefanav Aruma, that it would be enough that if she would stand in front of him undressed and that would calm him down. Yamus, Val Tamid Lefanav Aruma. No, he should die and she should not stand in front of him this way. Tesapi Ma'achayre Ageda. She could speak with him from behind the fence. No, we don't allow this either. Yamos he should rather die and not be allowed to speak with her from another side from the fence. Now, what exactly was the context of this story? What kind of a woman are we talking about? So they argued, one says, she was an Eishes Ish. She was a single girl. So the Gemara asks, it's understood, according to the opinion that says it was an Eishes Ish, Shape. So that's understood why we are so stringent about this, because Eishes Ish is one of the cases of what Gili Arayis is, the Aveda that you have to die and not be over the Aveda. Eishes Ish is the Chiyuv of Mises Bezdin. And therefore, not only to not actually have a relation with her, but anything related to this. As Mefarshim point out, because even just other details that it mentioned here would be included in the lav of Lisikrivu Legalois Erva, even not to get close, which means that it's Abizrayu. As the Gemara mentioned before on Daf Ayin Dalid, that anything associated to the three Averis, in this case, Gili Arayis, is also included in the din of Yeharig Val Yaver, that you have to die and not, in this case, not heal yourself. So that's understood. But according to the opinion that says that she was a single girl, my kulahai, why are we being so stringent about this? The case of a man having a relation with a single girl, for the most it could be is a lav, l'siya kadesha. Somebody Shainim even says it's not even a lav either. So why are we being so stringent about this? Says the Gemara, Rav Papa answered, the reason is mishum pegam mishpacha, because her family will be blemished by this. They'll be embarrassed about what happened. And therefore we don't allow this. Meaning even if as far as the girl itself, we're not concerned about her pagam, but mitzad the pagam mishpacha, we don't allow this. Which is interesting. To save a person's life because of the pagam mishpacha, we don't allow this. Some say from here you learn that in a case where it's a question of whether a person is obligated to save someone's life, but it'll cause him embarrassment, you don't have to. And the reason that's set for this is, based on what we learned before in the Gemara, that you compare saving one's life to saving an Aveda, or finding a lost object and returning it. That's where it's learned out from, that you also have to save someone's life. Just like by an Aveda, you don't have to embarrass yourself for this sake, here as well. But most say that you can't make such a comparison. A person is obligated to embarrass himself. But if you hear that Pagam Mishpacha is enough of a reason to consider this an Isser of Arayis that is Yeharig Val Yaver, that you can't save his life for this. Another pshat, Rav Acha Bered Rav Yiko Amar, in order that it shouldn't become, as a result of this, that now Jewish girls are going to be just free for anyone to go and have a relation with them. if you allow this to happen in such a case, so then it'll be similar, it'll happen in other cases as well. So therefore Chachamim put down a Gzeira and said, and they have the power to do this, that he cannot be healed, even in this case where there's no Isser or no Isser of Arayis on the level of Gili Arayis of Kadis involved. Fragt the Gemara, but there's still another option to heal him. V'linseva minsev, let him marry her. So then there's no Pirtze Ba'arayis, because if he's marrying her, so then there's no Aveda, it's a mitzvah. And some Rishonim say that would be even in a case where she doesn't even agree to get married to him, but she'll have to get married to him in order to be able to heal him. So over here, it's not being done by Isser, so then she has to do this in order to heal him. Says the Gemara, no, that's not going to help in this case. He's not going to calm down. It's not going to heal him. Why? Rabbi Yitzchak. The Omer Rabbi Yitzchak said, from the day that the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed, Nitlot Tam Bia, the tam, the pleasure that there is in the marital relations was taken, v'nitno lo'ivra aveda, and it was given that only for those that do aveda that are not doing it in the context of marriage. There's a strong Yetzer Hara, and the Yetzer Hara makes the taiva very strong. There's the hano. But after the time of the Churban Beis HaMikdash, Rashi explains, because there's so many daigas, so many worries, and so many tirdes, so therefore one doesn't have the taiva, the tam that there is in marital relations if it's after he's married. Shenema, the pasuk says, "Ma'im gnuvim yimteku." Stolen words are sweet. V'lechem sesarim yinam, and the bread, the hidden bread, is pleasant. So in this case, it wouldn't help this person to say that it should be done in the context of marriage. Hadran aloch ben Seirer Emeire. We shall return to you the 8th Perek of Masechta Sanhedrin, Perek ben Seirer Emeire. We begin the 9th Perek, which continues discussing the Dalad Misas Bezdin. So we move on now to the Misa of Sreife, and the Mishnah here lists the cases where there's a Misa of Sreife. And as we'll see here in the Mishnah, the Misa of Sreife applies only regarding certain cases of Arayis, of the Isser of Arayis, not all, but in some cases of the Isser of Arayis. Zok the Eilige Mishnah, ve'elu hein an Israfim. The following, their Misa is Sreife. Haba al Isha Obita, one that has a relation with a woman and her daughter. What does this mean? So as we'll see, the Gemara will explain. The simple meaning of Isha Obita means that you married a woman, or you married a daughter, and then you're not allowed to have a relation with her mother, which means one may not have a relation with his mother-in-law, and the einish by a mother-in-law is Sreife. This is actually a clear pasuk, where it says, the pasuk here is, as we'll see soon, quoted in the Gemara, V'ish asher yikach es isha ve'es ima, zima hi be'esh Sreifa isa ve'esen. So then there's a chiyuv Sreifa when one has a relation with his mother-in-law. So that's the meaning of Isha Ubita. Now, Bas Kayin Shezinsa, similar, a Bas Kayin that's married, she's an Eishes Ish, and she was Mizaneh, she also is Chayiv Sreifa. That's also a clear pasuk, as we learned already, details about this earlier in the Masechta. Now the Mishnah adds, these are the cases that it says clearly in the Torah. Yesh, Bachlal, Isha Obita, but then we also learn out and compare that included in the case of Isha Obita, which is the mother-in-law, that the Torah said clearly, there's other cases that we compare and learn out that there's also a Misa of Sreifa there. When is this? Bitoi. And when one has a relation with his daughter, Ubas Bitoi, his granddaughter, his daughter's daughter, or Ubas Benoi, his granddaughter, his son's daughter. So these are cases where it's his granddaughter, daughter, granddaughter, not from his wife, because he had a relation with a woman which was an anusa. He never had a marriage with her. He had a relation with her and he had a daughter or a granddaughter, but all an anusa. And here is this case as well. We learn out from the case of a mother-in-law that there's going to be Sreifa. Now another case, when it is his wife, Ubas Ishtai, if it's his wife's daughter, Ubas Bita, and then the daughter's daughter, Ubas Bena, or the son's daughter. And this is a wife, even when it's a daughter that's not his daughter. It's his wife's daughter from a different marriage. The Isser applies here, and the Sreife will apply here as well, when it's the daughter, or the daughter's daughter, or the son's daughter from his wife. And the Mishnah adds, Chamaisai, the mother-in-law, which is really what was mentioned before already. Ve'em Chamaisai, and we add now also the mother-in-law's mother, Ve'em Chamiv, and a father-in-law's mother as well. The Isser applies, and the Einish of Sreifa applies as well. Those are the cases of Sreifa. Just one Mishnah to give all the cases of Sreifa. The following Mishnayos will already move on to the next Misa. Okay, Zok the Gemara. So let's first understand the simple pshat of the first phrase of the Mishnah, Haba al isha obito. So as I explained before, simply it's speaking about a mother-in-law. A person married a daughter, and the issur is not to have a relation with the mother. But the Gemara will ask, it doesn't really fit into the lashon of the Mishnah. Haba al isha shenasa bita leikatani. The Mishnah does not say the language that would clearly say that it's talking about a mother-in-law. And that would be one that has a relation with a woman, that he married her daughter. Rather, Ella, what does it say in the Mishnah? Haba al isha ubita. One that has a relation with a woman and with her daughter. What does the Mishnah sound like it's saying? The klal de tarvayeli surah. It sounds like that both the woman and the daughter that he's having a relation with, both of them are forbidden. Not that he has a relation with the mother, that he married her daughter and the daughter is his wife. And the mother is that's the only one that's forbidden, which is the mother-in-law. It sounds like it's saying that both are forbidden over here. So what does that mean? So we're not only talking about the mother-in-law, we're talking about another woman as well, that's usher. So what would be the pshat in the Mishnah? Oman ninu. What's the Mishnah speaking about? Chamaisai ve'em chamaisai. It's speaking about the mother-in-law and also the mother-in-law's mother. That's what it means when it says isha obita. Isha obita means the isha is the mother-in-law's mother, and then the daughter, which is the mother-in-law, they are both usher, and they're both going to be in the chiyuv of sreifa. Okay, so now, if that's the pshat in this phrase in the Mishnah here, so that what does it mean? The beginning of the Mishnah, when it mentions Abba al Isha Bita, and then also Bas Kayin Shazinsa, it's mentioning those that the chiyuv of sreifa is clear in the Torah. And then it goes on to mention other cases where we learn out from drashis that there's a chiyuv sreifa there as well. So now, but now it doesn't work out, because according to the pshat we just said, the Mishnah is saying that not only regarding the mother-in-law is it mefurish in Torah that there's sreifa, but also regarding the mother-in-law's mother, it's mefurish in Torah that there's sreifa. And that's why the Mishnah is listing this first. But is that actually the case? Is it mefurish in the pasuk that the mother-in-law's mother, there's sreifa? So now, says the Gemara, the Katani, what is the Mishnah saying? Yesh, Bechlal, Isha, Ubita. There are other cases that we learn out and we include in what was mentioned first in the Mishnah, which is Isha Ubita. According to what we just said, that refers to the mother-in-law and the mother-in-law's mother. So Meklal, if so, that would mean that we have to say that Tarvayu Ksivi Behedye, that these two, the mother-in-law and the mother-in-law's mother, both say clearly in the Torah. Vahanoch, and then it's the other ones that the Mishnah says, Midrash Astya. That's what we learn out from a drasha. But is this actually true? Is the mother-in-law mefurish in the Torah? So the Gemara here is going to bring that the answer to this question is going to be based on a machlekes of Abaye and Rove, how they interpret a machlekes between Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Akiva. This machlekes and this whole discussion is brought and is explained later on Daf Ayin Vav Amud Beis. So in order to understand the Gemara here, let's just see the pasuk which you have here brought on the side of the Gemara. In the pasuk where it says the misa of sreifa regarding a mother-in-law, the pasuk says v'ish hashiyikach es isha ve'sima. So that's the mother-in-law. Zimahi be'esh yisreifu oisoi. You have to burn oisoi, that's the boil, and the esen. The esen. Now the pasuk here is simply esen is a plural term. What's the plural term? There's only the mother-in-law, one. That's what Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Akiva are coming to discuss. So now there's two ways how to understand what this esen means, and this is the machlekes of Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Akiva, and there's a machlekes between Abaye and Rove what they are arguing about. And this is all revolving around this word esen, which is plural. So now let's see first the words of the Gemara inside. It says the Gemara, it would be understood according to Abaye that says, Mashma darshan ikebinayu. The argument between Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Akiva is only how we translate the word esen, but everybody agrees to the same halacha, but it's only a question of what the word esen in the Torah means. And the machlekes is, either the word esen is lashon, this is, I believe, according to Rabbi Shmuel, the word esen is a lashon Yevani. And in Yevani, in Greek, hen, the word hen means one of them. So hen means the one of them. So it's only going on a mother-in-law. It's not going on the mother-in-law's mother. So it's actually not plural. It's not talking about two. It's talking about the mother-in-law that he had a relation with that has sreifa. That's it. That's all it says in the pasuk beferish. But according to Rabbi Akiva, esen is plural in Lashon Kodesh, and therefore esen actually refers to the mother-in-law and the mother-in-law's mother as well. So according to Rabbi Akiva, the way Abaye interprets this machlekes, esen includes both, the mother-in-law and the mother. Now, it's only Mashma's Darshim, because really Rabbi Shmuel agrees that the mother-in-law's mother is Chayiv Misa, but it's not Mefurish in the Pasuk though. So now, according to this, says the Gemara, we could say Masnis and Mani are Mishnah that indicates that both the mother-in-law and the mother are Mefurish in the Pasuk. Who's the Mishnah? Rabbi Kivi. That's Rabbi Kivi's opinion that Esen goes on both the mother-in-law and the mother-in-law's mother. However, Rava explains the machlekes between Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Kiva regarding the word Esen differently. And he says, what are they arguing about? They're arguing about whether there's a Isser and Sreife in a case when one has a relation with his mother-in-law even after his wife passed away. And the shaila is, do you say Esen means plural, so it means both, meaning that only when the wife is still alive, the wife is here, and the mother-in-law is here, then when you have a relation with the mother-in-law, there is a Chiv Misa. Or we say no, hen is singular, it's in Lashon Yavani, and therefore you're going to be Chayiv Misa when one has a relation with the mother-in-law, even if the wife is not alive anymore. So they're arguing about a side point regarding if the wife died, whether he's still going to be Chayiv Sreifa for a relation with his mother-in-law. But regarding the mother-in-law's mother, everybody agrees that it doesn't say it anywhere clearly in the Pasuk. So the question is, Masnis and Mani. So who's the Mishnah here? According to the Pshat we said before, Baal Isha Bita, that refers to the mother-in-law and the mother-in-law's mother. And says the Gemara, Amalacha Rava. So Rava will say, according to his Pshat, Tini Haba al Isha Shanasa Bita. So you're going to have to change the version of the Mishnah, that the Mishnah is to be read, one that has a relation with a woman that he married her daughter, which is just the mother-in-law. We're not talking about the mother-in-law's mother. So we have two pshatim now in the Mishnah, whether it refers to the mother-in-law and the mother-in-law's mother, or it refers only to the mother-in-law, because that's the only one that's clear in the pasuk. Okay, now here the Gemara will explain regarding the continuation of the Mishnah. The Mishnah in the end said, Yesh b'chlal isha ubita. What's included in one of the cases that it said that's included in isha ubita, the Mishnah lists chamaisai, the mother-in-law, ve'em chamaisai, the mother-in-law of the mother of the mother-in-law, that is, ve'em chamav, and the mother of the father-in-law. Okay, so now, clearly there's something that the Mishnah is saying here is extra. Chamaisai, doesn't have to mention again the mother-in-law. That, according to everybody, the Mishnah started off with that. That's the case, that's mefurish. Isha Bita is at least talking about the mother-in-law. Why does it say that again? And according to the other opinion we said, according to Abaye, Aim Chamaisai was also already mentioned in the beginning. So why is it repeating it here again? So the Gemara explains, La Abaye, according to Abaye's opinion, because it wants to add now the mother of the father-in-law. So Tani Nami Chamaisa Ve'em Chamaisa. So it also started off from the source of it that it mentions the mother-in-law and the mother of the mother-in-law, and it adds the one that it's coming to add here, which is the mother of the father-in-law. Rave, and according to Rave, that the Mishnah in the beginning only mentioned the mother-in-law, Aidi the Kabayla Misni Aim Chamav, now wants to add the mother of the mother-in-law, Ve'em Chamaisai, or again, that's the mother of the father-in-law, that is, and Ve'em Chamaisai, the mother of the mother-in-law, Tninami Chamaisai. So therefore the Mishnah starts off with the source, which is the mother-in-law, although it already mentioned it again in the beginning. Okay, now here the Gemara brings a braise where we will see the source of the additional cases that the Mishnah said. We learn out that by them there's also a Chiv Sreifa. Says the Gemara Menon and Mili, from where do I know this? The Tanir Rabbanan, we learned in the Braise. Isha sheyikach es isha ve'es ima, one that has a relation with a woman and her mother. So this is the pasuk that I read before regarding the Isra of the mother-in-law, and there the pasuk goes on to say zimahi, and then it says ve'eshi sreifa. So here's where the pasuk clearly says sreifa, and it uses the term zima, which will be the entire source. That word zima will be the source here, the Gzeira Shava. Now, isha ve'ima. So I only have a source here for this case of isha ve'ima. You married a woman, and now you have a relation with the mother. Now the question is, bas isha, if it's a daughter of your wife, or a bas bita, or the granddaughter of your wife, or bas bana, granddaughter through the son of your wife, minayin, how do I know that there as well? By that erve, there's a einish of misa, and that's sreifa specifically. So the limud is nema kan zima. It says over here by the mother-in-law zima, v'nema lahalon zima, and it also says regarding the wife's daughter or granddaughter, there it uses the term zima as well. As you see the pasuk here on the side of the Gemara, it says ervas isha ubito le'segala as bas b'nov as bas bito le'sikach le'galas, and then it concludes the pasuk zimahi. So we learn out ma lahalon bito ubas bito ubas b'nov. Avkan bita ubas bita ubas bena. So I compare and I say that in both cases that you're going to be chayiv, the chiyuv is going to be the einish the misa of sreifa. Okay, that's the limud over here from the mother-in-law. Okay, mala alom bita ubas bena, avkan bita ubas bena. Yeah, okay. Now the Gemara goes on to say, minayin, another limud that we learn out, lasais zecharim kenekeves. From where do I know that I compare zecharim? I compare males to females. Now exactly regarding what we're comparing males to females, we'll see later in the Gemara. Nema kan zima, so we learn out as well that it says here zima v'nema la'alon zima, and it says there zima. Ma la'alon zecharim kenekeves, just like there zecharim are compared to nekeves, avkan zecharim kenekeves. Here as well we compare zecharim to nekeves. Another point the Braisa says, minayin lasais lamata kalamayla. How do I know to compare what's below to what's above? Now, in the simple pshat, lamata and lamayla refers to the 2 points of relation that we're speaking about over here, the relatives that are going generations down from a person's wife and then her daughter, her granddaughter going down in generations, and lamayla would be a mother-in-law and then going up, a mother-in-law's mother or a father-in-law's mother. That's what we're comparing here, lamata kalamayla. So how do we know to compare the two? Nemakan zima v'nema la'alon zima, we learn out the Gzeir Shava of zima as well. Ma la'alon lamata kalamayla, avkan lamata kalamayla. And the Bryce adds again, umakan lamayla kalamata, or the Gersa here should be, lamata kalamayla, af lahalon lamayla kalamata. Okay, exactly the repetition and the meaning of this comparison of lamata and lamayla and the relations of going up and then going down, we'll see in the Gemara. Okay, so the Gemara starts with explaining what it says in the Braisa regarding comparing zecharim to nekevis. What is this comparison? Omamar, so the Braisa here said, Minayin las zecharim ke nekevis. How do I know that I compare zecharim to nekevis? My zecharim ke nekevis. What are we talking about in comparing zecharim to nekevis? So now, if you're going to say what we're talking about is bas bena ke bas bita, that what we're saying is that a granddaughter of a wife is the same like a daughter herself of the wife. That's what we're comparing, and that's the zecharim kenekevis. So what we're saying is that, again, that the bas bena is kebas bita, that it doesn't matter how it's a granddaughter, whether it's a granddaughter, the daughter's daughter, or the son's daughter. That's what it's coming to compare. But bahadi adadi kasyan, that you don't need a comparison, you don't need any limit of zima. It says it clearly in the pasuk. Pasuk says bas bena or bas bita. Elo. So then we have to say, what is it coming to compare? Zecharim to nekevis, eim chamav ke eim chamaisai. Regarding comparing a mother-in-law's mother and the father-in-law's mother. That's the zachar and the nekeva. The mother-in-law and the father-in-law, their mother, we compare the two, that you're going to be chayiv sreifa. And on that, the Braisa brings the Gzeir Shava of zima. So the Gemara says, how could you say that's what the Braisa is saying? In this Braisa, it didn't yet even tell me that there is a chayiv sreifa for the mother-in-law's mother. It's now coming to say that, how do I know that the father-in-law's mother is also chayiv sreifa? I didn't even see yet that the mother-in-law's mother is chayiv sreifa in this Braisa. So that can't be the point of the comparison in this lashon of the Braisa when it says charim kenekevis. So Amar Abaye says the pshat is as follows. Hachika Amar. This is what it's saying. Minayin lasais she'er haba mimenu ki she'er haba mimena. How do I know that when it comes to a relative, in other words, a daughter, a granddaughter, which is from him, that's this man's daughter or granddaughter, and it's not from his wife though. We're not talking about a case of a wife, rather we're talking about from anusa. The pasuk where it talks about a person's granddaughter, it says ervas bas bincha oy bas bitcha lesegal ervasan kervas chahena. It's not talking about a granddaughter from a wife. It's talking about from Anusa. Okay, that's the case of a she'er that comes from him. How do I know that I compare that kishe'er haba mimena to a granddaughter, and really not his granddaughter, but rather a relative, a relation, because it's his wife's granddaughter, daughter or granddaughter, and over there it's not necessarily his daughter or granddaughter, but it's his wife's granddaughter. How do I know that I compare to the two and say that just like by the wife, there's a einish of sreifa, so too, by his granddaughter from an anusa, there's also an einish of sreifa. And now that's what we're comparing. The Zacharim Kinekevas, meaning he himself, he's the Zachar, to compare a relation of a granddaughter to him, learn it out from the Nekevas, from Ishtay, from his wife's granddaughter. And on that the Braisa says, Nema kan zima, v'nema la alon zima, that the Gzeir Shava is that it says zima by the wife's granddaughter, and it says here by his granddaughter from an anusa, it also says zima. That's the limit to say that the streifa here as well. But on this the Gemara asks right away, it's not true. It does not say zima by his granddaughter from an anusa. The Torah does not write zima by him. As I just read the pasuk before, you have it over here on the side of the Gemara. The first pasuk, it just says Ervas bas bincha, bas bitcha leisegale ervasan kervascha eina. It doesn't say the term zima. So how could we make this Gzeir Shava? Amar Rav Amali Rav Yitzchak bar Avdimi. So Rav Yitzchak bar Avdimi told me that there's another Gzeir Shava before here, that we compare from his granddaughter, from an anusa, to bas ishtay. And that is the Gzeir Shava of Heina, Heina. It says by his granddaughter the term Heina, and by his wife's granddaughter it says the term also that Leisikach, Legalis, Ervasa, Shara, She'era, Heina, and then it says also Zima Hi. So I compare the Heina, Heina, that these two are compared to each other. So now that I know that these two are compared to each other, so by the Heina that it says by his wife's granddaughter, there, that Heina, it says Zima there as well. So now I compare here to when it comes to his granddaughter from an anusa, the Heina here is also the same kind of Heina, a Heina with Zima. That's what this Gzeir Shava teaches me. And once I know that, I say, Asya, Zima, Zima, I learn out the Zima that it says by his daughter or his granddaughter from his anusa to the Zima that it says by a mother-in-law to say that you're going to be Chayiv Sreifa. So it's a sort of a double Gzeir Shava. First, the Gzeir Shava of Heina, Heina, to say that it's as if it says the word Zima by his daughter Me'anusasai, and then I can learn out the Gzeir Shava of Zima, Zima from the mother-in-law. That's how Rashi explains it. Okay, now going to the next part of the Braisa, and this is a bit complicated. The Braisa said, Omamar, Minayin lasa is lamata kalamayla. How do I know that I'm going to compare what's below to what's above? So the Gemara first asks, Maila mata kalamayla. What do these words mean, that we're comparing below to above? If you'll say the pshat over here is, Baz beno, baz bita kebita. How do I know to compare a granddaughter of his wife to the daughter of his wife? That in both cases there'll be sreife. And according to this pshat, the way you would read the Braisa is, Lamaila is a closer relative. It's just your daughter. Lamato would mean one generation further down. So how do I know? I compare one generation further down from your wife, which is the granddaughter, that there'll be sreife there, just like by one generation up, which is the daughter herself of your wife. Says the Gemara, for that you don't need a limit. It says it in the Torah and the pasuk together. And ever sisho bita, and then it says Baz Beno, Baz Bita. It says it all in the pasuk. So Ella, rather, what are we coming to compare when it says Lamata Kalamayla? Aim Chamav ve'aim Chamaisai. Here's where the Braisa is saying the source for the mother of the father-in-law and the mother of the mother-in-law, Kechamaisai. That you're going to be Chayiv Sreifa just like for the mother-in-law. That's what we're coming to learn out. So just like by the mother-in-law herself, there is a chiyuv of sreifa, so too by the mother of the mother-in-law and the mother of the father-in-law. Says the Gemara, but if that's the case, hi lamato kilamayla. Why are you saying over here lamato is like lamayla? It should say the opposite. Lamayla kilamata. One generation further up. What we're trying to learn out is that the mother-in-law's mother, meaning one more generation up, is compared to one generation down, which is the mother-in-law. So the lashon of the Braisa should have been the opposite. That's what it should have said. So the Gemara answers that. Okay, so for this question, the Gemara answers, we'll have to switch the lashon of the Braisa. Tani, you have to change in the Braisa and learn Lamaila Kalamata, that we're coming to learn out that one generation up, which is, in other words, it's really two generations up because we're going one more generation up. The mother-in-law's mother is compared to the mother-in-law. By the mother-in-law, it says clearly in the pasuk that there's sreifa, and we're now comparing the lamaila, one generation up, the mother-in-law's mother, to be like the lamata, which is the mother-in-law. That's how you have to read the Braisa. But the Gemara asks on the pshat, Ihachi, but what does the Braisa say? Nema kan zima v'nema la alon zima. That we're learning out a Gzeir Shava because by the mother-in-law it says zima, and by the mother-in-law's mother it also says zima. Where does it even mention the mother-in-law's mother befedish in the pasuk? According to one opinion that we brought before that the Gemara is discussing here now, it doesn't ever mention the mother-in-law's mother in the pasuk. So how could you say this? Now, ma hashte ini like siva. The mother-in-law's mother is never mentioned in the pasuk. Zima deduk siva. There's a word zima in the Torah that you have exer Shabbat to compare the mother-in-law's mother to the mother-in-law. Doesn't ever say the word zima. So what's the pshat here? Okay, so the Gemara sticks to this pshat that we're coming to learn out that the mother-in-law's mother is chayiv sreifa just like the mother-in-law, but the drasha is different. We're going to be learning out here now the generations lamaila, meaning the generations going in up from a person. The mother-in-law, the mother-in-law's mother. We're learning that out from the generations lamata. Just like we see what the Torah says regarding generations of relatives going down by a wife's daughter, then a wife's granddaughter. That's the comparison here. And that's the zima the Braisa is talking about. So Omar Abaye says, Hochi ka Omar. This is the pshat in the Braisa. Minayin lasois shleisha deiris lamayla ke shleisha deiris lamata. How do I know that we go up 3 generations above, just like 3 generations below? Meaning, just like by a person's wife, there's his wife, that's generation 1, then there's his wife's daughter, generation 2, and then the wife's granddaughter, which is generation 3, and the pasuk clearly says that by all of them, there is the Isser, and it says Zima by all of them. So how do I know that I say the same going up from the wife, generation 2, the mother-in-law, generation 3, the mother-in-law's mother, that I compare and I say that by the mother-in-law's mother, that it'll also be Isser. So this is what the Braisa is saying, Nema lamata Zima, Nema lamayla Zima. So this is the same Gzer Shava of Zima. It says Zima by the wife's children, daughter or daughter-in-law. So you see it goes a 3rd generation down, and it says also by the mother-in-law the term Zima, Malamata Shleisha Deiris, just like going down, it's 3 generations, Af Lamayla Shleisha Deiris. So too, by the mother-in-law going a generation up, we go up another generation, which is the mother-in-law's mother, which the Gemara calls a 3rd generation, because again, the wife is the 1, the mother-in-law is 2, and the mother-in-law's mother is the 3rd generation, and the Isser is the same, like when you go with the generations down. And as the Gemara already said before, the Gersa, according to Abaye and the Braisa, we have to switch the Gersa and the Braisa. Instead of reading in the Braisa that we're comparing Lamata to Lamayla, it's the opposite. We're comparing Lamayla to Lamata, the generations going up. We're comparing and learning it out from the generations going down. Okay, now this comparison is in order to clarify regarding the punishment of Sreifa, that just like by the generations going down, there's the punishment to the Bas Bitoi, so too in generations going up, there's Sreifa also regarding Eim Chamaisa, the mother-in-law's mother. But now here the Gemara points out that the pshat in the continuation of the Braisa is that there's another detail here regarding the mother-in-law that we learn out from the generations going down. And what is that? As we know regarding all these halachas where there's an einish of miseh, that always has to be azhara. There has to be a clear pasuk where there's a warning. The thing is, if you look in the pasuk where it talks about the einish of sreifa regarding a person that has a relation with his mother-in-law, it doesn't say in the pasuk any azhara. All it says in the pasuk is v'isha sheyikach es isha v'asima. It describes it as a zimahi, and it says the punishment ve'eshi sreifu and so on. But it doesn't say azhara, the lav itself. From where do I learn out the lav da azhara by the mother-in-law as well, not only the sreifa? So on that the Gemara says, Uma ba'inish asa lamata kalamayla. Just like when it comes by the einish, we say that we compare lamata to lamayla, and what that means is that when it comes to the punishment, so there is the wife's daughter and there's the wife's granddaughter. And we compare the two. Here, the pshat of lamata kalamayla is, the lamayla means the wife's daughter, because that's closer, that's up. And then the granddaughter of the wife, that's lamata. So just like regarding the einish, we say that we compare the granddaughter to the daughter, and there's the einish of sreifa by both of them. And as the Gemara before said, we compare the same. And we say by the mother-in-law as well, that we compare the mother-in-law and the mother-in-law's mother. So this is the limud regarding the einish of sreifa. That just like by lamata, it goes down to the next generation that we compare the lamata to the maila. Again, that's the granddaughter to the daughter. So too, lamaila, we compare the mother-in-law to the mother. Av ba'azhara, so too when it comes to the warning, nami, asay lamaila kalamata. Regarding the warning, we compare the generation going up, which is a mother-in-law. We learn out the azhara, the warning regarding the mother-in-law, from the warning that it says by having a relation with the wife's daughter, by the generation going down. By the pasuk where it says about not having a relation with the wife's daughter, there's a clear lav. There the pasuk says, Eres isha bitul lo yisagale. And it says in the pasuk zima. So we learn out from the same zima, the azhara for the mother-in-law. That's the second limud that the Braisa is referring to. This is Abayi's Pshat in the Gemara. So Rashi here explains that according to Abayi's Pshat, the girsa in the Braisa has to be as follows. If you turn back to the page before and you look back into the Braisa, you'll see that this is not exactly the girsa of the Braisa, but you have to switch around the girsa in the Braisa. And the first switch is right in the beginning of the Braisa. We have to read it, Minayin lasais lamayla kalamata. We're comparing the generations going up to the generations going down. The mother-in-law and the mother-in-law's mother, we're comparing to the daughter of the wife and the the granddaughter as well. And over here, there are two things that the Braisa says that we're learning out. And the way you have to read the Braisa is, Mala halon lamata kalamayla. Just like when it comes to the generations going down, so we compare lamata. Lamata means another generation down, which is bas bita. We compare it to lamayla, which is bita. Afkan, so too here, when we're talking about the mother-in-law, Lamaila is kalamata. What does Lamaila kalamata mean here? That the mother-in-law's mother, which is one generation further up, will be compared to Lamata, which is the mother-in-law. That's the gears in the Braisa. Then the Braisa goes on to say again, it's not a repetition. The second time the Braisa says, and here, the way you have to be guided according to Abaye, the next point the Braisa is coming to explain is the Azhara. As I mentioned, there is no clear Azhara in the Torah for the mother-in-law. And here, the way you read the Braisa is, Ma'kan lamata kilamayla. Just like I say over here, that we're comparing it for the Einish of Sreifa, we're comparing Bas Ishtai to Chamaisai. From where do I know that there's an Einish of Sreifa by Lamata, by Bas Ishtai and Bas Bitoi of his wife? That's from this Gzeidah Shava of Zima. That's how I know Sreifa. Afkan Lamaila Kilamata. So too, regarding the Azhara, I compared the Lamaila, which is the mother-in-law, to the Lamata, which is Bas Ishtai, regarding the warning that it clearly says by Bas Ishtai applies to Lamaila, which is Chamaisai. That is the reading of the Braisa according to Abaya. Okay, now Rashi points out, it's not only that we're switching the beginning of the Braisa regarding the Lamata Kalamayla, that we switch it to Lamaila Kalamata, but it's also the continuation of the Braisa, which is being switched around according to Abai's opinion. Ravashi says, Lo'ilam Kidiktani. The beginning of the Braisa, I don't have to switch it. You don't have to switch it from Lamata Kalamayla to Lamaila Kalamata. You can leave it as is, Lamata Kalamayla. Our question was, how could you say Lamata Kalamayla? That we're comparing the generations below, Baspita and so on, to Lamaila. It's the other way around. We're actually trying to look for a source for the mother-in-law's mother. And we're learning it out from the generation Lamata. So how does Ravashi learn this? So Ravashi here will explain that the terms of Maila and Mata mean something else. The terms of Maila and Mata does not mean in the sense of who is above, generations going up or generations going down, but it means in the severity of the Isser. That's what the term of Mata and Maila means. And it means as follows. Maila Mata Lamata be-Isser. Lamata means a less severe Isser. And therefore what it's saying is that we're comparing and saying that the mother-in-law's mother, which is a less severe Isser, we're learning out the mother-in-law's mother from the mother-in-law. Imahi aim imasura afhu aim imayasura. I'm sorry, this is already another point. This is going back to another point that's connected to the Gemara before. But Rav Ashi here says that the pshat in the Gemara is, as I just said, that when it says that Lashon Lamata Kalamayla, what it's saying is that we're learning out that the Mata, why are we calling the mother-in-law's mother Mata? Mother-in-law's mother is called Mata because she's less severe. And we're learning out that the mother-in-law's mother is like Lamaila. That's the mother-in-law. Why are we calling the mother-in-law Maila? Because it's more severe. It's a higher standard, a higher level of a Isser. That's the pshat in the opening phrase of the Braisa regarding this limud when it says the term Lamata Kalamayla. Not the continuation of the Braisa, where it then explains the Gzeidah Shava of Zima, and it says Lamata Kalamayla. Here, Rashi explains that more or less, Rav Ashi agrees to Abaye in the Pshat, the way I explained it before, that the term of Mata and Maila there does not mean like in the opening phrase that it's in the severity of the Isser, but there it actually means Mata and Maila in the closeness to the person, or in generations up, generations down, similar to what we explained before according to Abaye. Okay, but now here the Gemara continues with another question. Based on what we said before, that we're learning out with the Gzeir Shava of Heina Heina and Zima Zima, that we compare the daughters of the wife, which is relatives through her, and we're comparing also that it's the same also by his granddaughters when it's Bitoy Manu Sosai, that they have the same din. So now based on this, the Gemara asks, Imahi Eim Ima Asura. So now if we're comparing the Isurim that apply to a person based on his wife, and the Isurim that apply to him based on his own granddaughters, so maybe we should say also regarding the generations going up. Just like when it comes to a person's wife, his mother-in-law is asr to him. That's the Isur of the mother-in-law where the Torah Fedish says Sreifa. So Afu, I should say the same thing, that Eimimo Yasura, I should compare and say that the same applies also to a person's grandmother, his mother's mother, that it should be the same Isur, and it should be Sreifa as well. And Rashi says that there's a Gemara that says in Yevamis that this is actually a person's own grandmother, his mother's mother. There's no Issa min HaTorah. It's only from the Shniyos, it's an Erva Midrabana. So the Gemara is asking, why not compare to the mother-in-law? By the mother-in-law and the mother-in-law's mother over there, there's the Issa min HaTorah. So I should say the same also with the grandmother, the mother's mother, that I should compare and say there should be the same Issa min HaTorah. So here the Gemara is going to go through a lengthy discussion, exploring all kinds of options, explaining why you cannot make this comparison. Abaye says a simple pshat, but then as we'll see, the Gemara is going to explore all kinds of options here. Amar Abaye, so Abaye says, Makra, regarding a mother, the pasuk clearly says, Imcha hi. Extra word, the pasuk says that Ervas Imcha loy segale, and then it says, Imcha hi, this is your mother. Mishum imei atamachayva, viatamachayva mishum eimimai. That the Isser of a mother only applies to a mother and not to a mother's mother. And that's why we don't make this comparison, just like a mother-in-law's mother is Asam min HaTorah, a mother's mother is not Asam min HaTorah, it's only an Erva Midrabanan. Interesting. A mother-in-law's mother is Asam min HaTorah, but your own grandmother, the mother's mother, is only a Isser Midrabanan. Because the pasuk clearly says, Imchahi. Another Pshat the Gemara says, Rava Mar. Rava says, now here, before we see the words of the Gemara inside, there are two opinions when it comes to comparing. For example, what we're talking about here, a Gzeir Shava, when we compare two cases, one is Daimina Mina and one is Daimina Vaiki Basra. What this means is, when I learn out something, when I learn out a certain halacha, do I just learn out the primary halacha and the rest of the details I don't have to apply equally and learn out from that place? Or I learn it all out. I learn out the main halacha and I have to compare and learn out the details as well. So here the Gemara is going to point out, whichever way you go by, still there'll be a problem here. You can't learn out this Gzeir Shava to compare from a mother-in-law's mother to say that the same should apply also by a mother's mother. Says it over. Where do we say like the opinion that says that you learn out the main limud, the main halacha, and then umina, the other details we learn out as well. Or whether you want to follow the opinion that says that we learn out the main halacha, but then a detail you don't have to learn out. That we apply back over here in this place according to what the halacha is here. Now, the relevance over here for this is, there is the learning out the halacha itself, the isser of the erva of the mother's mother. And then there's the einish. Which misa are we going to give? If we're learning out from the mother-in-law's mother, so there the particular einish is sreifa. Are we going to learn out sreifa as well? Or maybe we should apply it back to this case that we're talking about over here. When a person has a relation with his mother, the einish actually is skila. So maybe over here we should apply it and say that the einish would be skila. That's what we're going to discuss. There's the main halacha of the isser, and then the einish, the particular misa. We learned that out as well. So the Gemara says, either way, loy asya. You can't learn out this limud that a mother's mother is going to be asr with the einish, learning it out from the mother-in-law's mother. Now, the Gemara begins. If you learn out from the mother-in-law and you're learning it out all the details as well, the einish of the sreifa as well, and you'll say, Mahi eim ima sura, just like by the wife's mother and her mother as well. In other words, the mother-in-law's mother. Are asr afhunami eimime asura. So too, you'll say that the person's mother's mother is asr. That's the first thing we learn out. And then umina. we learn out the other detail, the particular misa as well. Mahi b'sreifa, afunami b'sreifa, just like by the mother-in-law's mother, the punishment is sreifa. So too, by the mother's mother, we'll apply the detail of sreifa as well. So now you'll have a problem. And here, for the Gemara to explain this problem, it's relevant to know the misa of sreifa and skila. Which one of them are more severe? This was a machlokes earlier in the Masechta between Rab Shimon and the Rabbanan. Rabbanan say that skila is more severe, and Rab Shimon says that sreifa is more severe. So the Gemara begins with the opinion of Rab Shimon that says that sreifa is more severe, and now there's going to be a problem with this Rasha. According to the opinion that says that sreifa is more of a severe misa than skila, so we have a couple of questions. First question is, how can you learn out this Gzeira Shava? I have a pircha, I can refute this. Ikala mifrach, malihi, when it comes to the mother-in-law, shekain ima b'sreifa. The wife, when it comes to the wife, her mother, the mother-in-law, there the einish is sreifa. That's why, because sreifa is very severe, that's the reason why the mother-in-law's mother is also aser. Taima buhu, when it comes to a person's own mother, shima b'skila, here the einish is only skila, which is, according to this opinion, a lighter misa. So how could I learn out and say to apply that the mother's mother should be sreifa? Maybe there's no issa for the mother's mother, because by the mother we see there's a lighter misa. Now the Rishonim point out that it's very unusual. The Gemara is bringing a pircha on a Gzeira Shava. Usually a Gzeira Shava there's no pircha, but it has to be that this is a kind of Gzeira Shava where the words here in the pasuk are not extra, and in such a case, the Gzeira Shava, you could refute it with a svara, as the Gemara does here. Another question the Gemara asks, Imai biskila, it's going to come out that when one has a relation with his mother, then the einish is skila, which is a lighter misa, and aim imai bisreifa, and you're learning out then from the mother-in-law's mother that the same by the mother's mother there should be sreifa, which would be more severe. How would it make sense to say that for a grandmother there would be a more severe misa than a more closer relative, which is the mother? So you can't learn out this limud if you follow this opinion that says mino, that we have to learn out the detail of sreifa as well. And the third question here is, I would say, mahi loichilaktaba bein ima le'eim ima, just like when it comes. Maybe I should say that the drash has to be as follows. If we're looking to compare between the two, so just like by her, when it comes to the mother-in-law and the mother-in-law's mother, loichilaktaba bein ima le'eim ima. There's no difference between the mother and the mother-in-law. Again, that's the mother-in-law and the mother-in-law's mother. There's no difference between them. By both of them, it's sreifa. So over here as well, maybe you should not make any distinction between the mother and the mother's mother. And by both of them, it should be skila. So if you're learning out and you're trying to completely compare to the source of where you're learning out from, so then how? How are you supposed to compare? How if you're going to try to compare it fully to the source of where you're learning it from, you can't. On one end, or in one sense, if you want to compare a grandmother to the mother-in-law's mother, so then how do you have to compare it? That both of them have to be sreifa. That's one way to compare. But then it's still not fully compared, because then it would mean that by the mother-in-law and the mother-in-law's mother have the same punishment of sreifa, but by the mother and the grandmother, it's not the same punishment. The mother is skila and the grandmother is sreifa. Elamai, you're going to want to compare it fully, mino. So then there's another option that you have to compare and say that just like there, it's both sreifa. So over here, if your mother is skila, in order for it to be the same, the grandmother has to be skila as well. But then in another aspect, it's not compared. So the point is, you can't learn out a limuder, a mino, where it's going to be fully compared. So that's a problem either way. So this is a question. The Gemara here brings three questions if we followed up Shimon's opinion that sreifa is more severe. Now the Gemara concludes this and says, according to the opinion that says that skila is more severe, so the first two questions doesn't apply. There's no refutation in the Gzeira Shava, as the Gemara explained. But mahai kusha, the last question remains a question that if we're looking to compare fully, it's impossible. You can't fully compare them. So that question remains a question. Okay, this is the options of learning out according to the mandama that says doin mino. It does not work out. Now, according to the opinion that says that we learn out the principle, we learn out the main halacha. In this case, we're learning out the main halacha of the mother, the grandmother, and we're going to learn it out from the mother-in-law's mother. But then the application, then we could apply it over here to the misa that there is in this case, which is skila. We don't have to learn out sreifa. So we're going to say as follows: Mahi emima asura. Just like there, the mother-in-law's mother is asur afunami emima asura. So too over here, the grandmother is asur. And then v'oiki basra, and I'll apply it to our place and say hasam hu de b'sreifa. There by the mother-in-law's mother it's sreifa. Aval hacha b'skile. But over here, we're going to apply and say that a grandmother is going to be skila kedash k'cham be'imai. Just like we see by the mother that it's skila. So again, the Gemara will go through the two opinions, which one of the misas are more severe, sreifa or skila. So Laman Dama Sreifa Chamura, Rab Shim's opinion that Sreifa is more severe, so we have a problem with this limud. Ikele Mifrach, I'll refute this limud the following, similar to what the Gemara said before. Malehi, when it comes to the mother-in-law, and then the mother-in-law's mother, Shekain Ima B'Sreifa. There, the reason why the Torah is more machmer regarding the mother-in-law's mother, because as we see, by the mother-in-law, there's Sreifa, which is a more severe misa. That's why it includes the mother-in-law's mother as well. Taimabuhu, when it comes to a person's own mother, she'imai b'skila. Here we see it's a lighter misa of skila. So how could I compare and say that here the Torah is machmer, that the mother's mother should be asur as well? Void. Another question over here is, if I'm coming to compare the two, and then I'm applying it back to our case, there are two ways how this could be compared, and it's not clear exactly what the drasha would be. I can tell you maybe as follows. Hu kihi. Maybe the drasha here should be that I compare him to her. In other words, we're talking about his mother and her mother, meaning his mother-in-law. So maybe I should compare him to her differently. And I'll say as follows. Mahi, just like when it comes to his wife, there's no difference in the punishment that there is by the wife's daughter, if one has a relation with the wife's daughter, and when one has a relation with the mother-in-law or the mother-in-law's mother. In all cases, it's going to be the same einish of sreifa. So maybe I should say afhu lo tachlik bay. So maybe regarding him as well, you shouldn't make any distinction bein bay. Again, lo tachlik bay bein bitay le'im imay. There shouldn't be any difference between his daughter to aim imay, to his mother-in-law's, again, to his mother's mother, that is. Just like by bitay, what is the einish for this? The einish by his daughter is sreifa, so to fe'eim imay, the einish would be sreifa. So even if I want to say that the limit over here is daimina v'aiki basra, it's not clear what the limit is going to be. There's two options and there's no way to figure out what this limit is. Either I have to compare and say, as the conclusion of the Gemara was before, that you're going to learn out that for the grandmother the skila, just like the mother is skila, for the grandmother is skila. Or maybe I should learn out another halacha. Maybe I should learn out the halacha from the wife, from the wife's mother, the mother-in-law, that just like there, the grandmother, not the grandmother, sorry, the mother-in-law's mother is sreifa, just like the wife's daughter. Over there I compare, I see that the Torah, zima, we had before the Gzeira Shava, I compare the mother-in-law and the mother-in-law's mother to the daughter of the wife and the granddaughter of the wife, that both of them are sreifa. So maybe over here as well, I should say that I have to compare also the person's daughter to his grandmother, and they should both be sreifa. So what's the limit? Is the limit for sreifa or the limit is for skila? There's no way to figure out what this limit is. Now, this is the question if you say that sreifa is more severe. Now, the Gemara concludes, Laman Dama skila chamura, according to the opinion that says that skila is more severe. Mahai kushilaini doina. This last question is going to be a question. The previous question is not according to this opinion, but this last question will be a question that's not clear how you learn out. And therefore, as you see here, the Gemara concludes according to all these options of how you would want to compare and say to Aser, a grandmother, like a mother-in-law's mother, it doesn't work out, and therefore the Gemara in Yevamos concludes that the grandmother is only Aser midrabbanan, shniya starayis.